Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault games. We've got Dan on Hive Mind, a very spicy deck indeed, versus Lucas on Yorion and Taxes. Both of these decks have been option in Legacy for quite a long time, but they've picked up interesting new tech. Yorion for, of course, the traditional Death and Taxes shells, and Hive Mind getting sudden substitution. Aether Vial leading out for Yorion and Taxes, and that is going to mean that any future creatures are going to be very difficult to stop. Stoneforge Mystic just getting cast to set the clock. Other runes coming in off of the vial. Probably just going to be attacking, honestly. Cauldron Complete coming in off of the Stoneforge. Eating things up. It's going to be 3 more turns at most. Thalia is going to be probably the biggest problem here. Going to make it very, very difficult to combo off. Hive Mind needs to play multiple spells, most often in the same turn. Thalia, a real problem. You want to potentially play a spell and then use sudden substitution, or get that Hive Mind into play and win on the spot. Having to pass the turn, of course, it's slower, but there's no real defenses in Hive Mind in terms of board presence, so you could potentially be dead on board when you're comboing off. You don't want to give your opponent that next attack step, passing the turn. Such a problem in Legacy, and wow, Dan only 3 dual lands played that game. Absolutely one-sided. Yorion and Taxes picks up game 1. I don't know if Lucas got any information at all, did he? I don't think he played anything other than those duels. Very interesting. I'm not sure what you would put someone on if all they did is play 3 dual lands. Maybe a Yorion pile? Like, do you jump right to Hive Mind? It seems like a stretch. See how Lucas sideboards such limited information. Dan is going to have the play and could potentially win on the first turn. The deck is capable of show and tell Hive Mind, play a Pact. Of course, once the Hive Mind is in play, kind of a pain to interact with the deck. Counter spells, for example, are pretty trash against it. Now, there are some exceptions like Flusterstorm and Daze, but a card like Force of Will, for example, will basically be useless versus Hive Mind. They'll get a copy of your Force. They have to stop that Hive Mind from coming down, otherwise it can potentially shut off your counter magic. The more narrow the counter magic is, the better counter tends to be against Hive Mind. Those conditions end up kind of being to your benefit. For example, a card like Pyroblast. Go after the Hive Mind. I guess that's not really a counter spell, but certainly with Daze and Flusterstorm, something that you may be able to pay, your opponent might not be able to pay it. They're the one that's flinching, they're moving first, they're potentially tapping out to make their game-winning play. A couple of basic islands, staring down a Rishadan Port, one of the few things that actually interact with basic island. It's with the original foil port. Or a time card in Legacy. Work towards a set of... I'm not sure if he has a complete set. Otawara on the other side. Schadenpour and Thalia. One Dan down. Now we have a Sanctum Prelate. This is going to come in at 1, I believe. Ooh, an Echoing Truth in response to the Prelate. Sudden substitution. And it looks like just a one-hit KO here. Act of the Titan. Then responding with sudden substitution. changing the spell. Wow, that is brutal. So now that Lucas knows that Sanctum Prelate could have been better. Really, I mean, I think you just go at 0. One of the better cards that you could have. They can't play the packs. It's not like it counters them. They literally cannot play them. Much stronger than, for example, a Chalice of the Void. You have a Chalice at 0, and I play Pact of the Titan. I don't actually care that my Pact is going to get countered. That's of no consequence. I didn't want it anyways. Ooh, Deafening Silence. A strong piece of hate here. Again, Death and Taxes. No shortage of hate for combo decks. It just takes time to deploy. The longer the game goes, it tends to favor the hate deck. Up to a point. I mean, you want a clock. You definitely want to get them out of there at some point. If you give them all day, they will figure out a way around your hate. But that midterm, that mid-game situation where things like Wasteland and Rishadenport can have some meaning, trick your opponent's options, that's where you just want to close the game out. Get down. I mean, even attacking with a Thalia for 10 turns is potentially good enough. You just don't want to be passing the turn after turn with 0 pressure on the life total. Like a Solitude in hand. Not a great card in this matchup. Previous builds of Hive Mind would run Emrakul to be able to show and tell in, though even if you had that, I don't even know if you can leave that in versus Death and Taxes. They have so many answers to it now. Yorion build has the Solitudes and the Caracases and so much access to all of them. Not to mention the fact that a card like Recruiter of the Guard can easily be put in off of a show and tell, go tutor up the Solitude. Just overall, Emrakul not a particularly viable option versus Yorion and Taxes. Tomb. Thalia's coming down next turn. And we've got a show and tell. Got to imagine this is going to be Hive Mind. Emrakul would not be any good here at all, as it could just be bounced back with Caracas. No Pact, however. We have a Hive Mind down. And unfortunately, any type of cantrip is going to be pretty terrible. Bit of a problem, as any Brainstorms and Ponders Lucas is going to get a copy of. Down. Have 3 damage a turn. Oh, he's drawn it. That's how you draw it up. Kind of. I mean, you wanted it in hand earlier, but he's drawn the Pact of the Titan, and this should do. All right. Just like that. I think he had to have drawn it then. I feel like there was one turn. Maybe I got distracted. But playing through Thalia and Deafening Silence, not a lot of combo decks can do that.